How's things around Union this morning, son?
Everything's okay. I guess I gave you last night, but after the event,
Well, I was wondering why I didn't catch you last night. I called you a few times. I called you yesterday about noon on 40 also.
And after I got out of service, Sears in Meridian was actually selling some amateur radio equipment, like a Hallicrafter receiver. They were just a general broadcast with a shortwave band. I bought a radio that had 3 shortwave bands on it. And I was tuning around and messing around with it one day, and I screwed down where I heard the 20-meter amateur band. I'd never heard of a ham radio, but it was working with my thinking. I was wanting to know how a signal was transmitted or what caused an antenna to radiate a signal on a certain frequency. I had no idea, but it just pounded my mind, continue. Well, Louise couldn't understand why I was wanting to listen to that stuff. She said that old meter band. She said that old meter band stuff. Well, she didn't know what we were talking about. The man that run a radio repair shop in Union had got interested, and he had got a license. Well, I didn't know anything about it, but I began to deal with him a little bit, and learn some of the fundamentals of how he went about it. And I'd hear them fellows say, well, I'm such and such and such, and I'm running 14 watts. And this, man, that just turned me up. Oh, how in the world are they doing it? Well, I kept scratching for material. The American Radio Relay League sold beginner material, and so I ordered some stuff, and it showed how to build a one-tube radio, stuff like that. I started with homemade equipment. I made it myself. And I didn't have no earthly idea how you go about making a tube transmit. I spent time digging and digging. Well, that was in 1962, I believe it was. You've heard the novice class, haven't you, when you're dealing with it. I caught the little doodlebug train in Union one morning, drove down to Jackson, took the novice test. 5 words of code, I believe, and very, very elementary. It was good for a year. Well, I found out my friend there that run the radio shop, was going to go for a commercial license. I'd go in the shop and talk with him and found out he was going, and he says, you can ride with me. Anyway, J.L. Jones had a little store there in Union. We went to J.L. and he gassed up with J.L. and we got in the car, him and his daughter and wife and me, the 4 of us, went down to the post office building in Jackson, and I took the general. Passed. Didn't know from doodling. But I had memorized, and I still was using homemade stuff. I don't know how I ever succeeded in becoming a full-fledged amateur, but I read all the material I could do and memorized all I could do, and I built all that I could. Well, now I've got to where I'm afraid to get into that solid state stuff up to get nose. So I've got 4 or 5 sets. I've got a little something wrong with them, and I've got one that's in good working order. I'm using it. But my ham radio has, I don't do anything more than just listen and answer a roll call on the Mississippi Network like that. But there was a time when it was useful, but there was cell phones and all that is taking a lot of that. Most anybody walking around got a cell phone and talk to Tom Dooley. So it doesn't have the quite the meaning that it did 50 or 60, 70 years ago. Let's see, when World War II ended in 1918, thereabout, ham radio was just beginning to come in, but it was spark. It wasn't a vacuum tube. It was a high voltage spark, dots and dash, dots and dash. It went that way until somebody, Lee DeForest or somebody, discovered a way to take a vacuum tube and produce a clean CWC. Well, it has been a fascinating thing, a rewarding thing, but as I've got older, I've lost a lot of my ability to have confidence to dig into it. I still know what it's doing, but the thing about this, man, this phase lock loops and all that stuff, I just hadn't had the desire to dig into it.